All right. Hey, Lauren.
Hey.
Welcome to Serato Studio LA.
Thank you.
And this is the Unscripted podcast.
Fun.
Yeah, we're really grateful for your time today.
Yeah, of course.
So let's just get right into it. The first thing I wanted to ask you was about the last gig you played.
Last gig I played, I'm gonna have a two-part for that because I feel like I have two different avenues when it comes to DJing, and so one was a corporate gig, and I did Tiffany's Jewelry had a men's launch party in LA, so I DJ'd that, which was really really cool, and then I before that I played with RL Grime in New York,
Cool.
which was also cool, and I played with busted headphones.
Oh yeah, we were just talking about that.
Yeah.
A very vital part of the DJ equipment arsenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, all these years I've been DJing, and I'm like, oh my God, do I need to carry backup headphones with me now? I'm like a little scarred. So,
Have you ever DJed with like earbuds?
no,
I see
no.
some people do that.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know how they do it, but
I mean, maybe I should have some like, but who even has them with like an aux input?
yeah,
Or, yeah, out.
the quarter inch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I know.
maybe I'll have that as a backup.
But you played a corporate gig and you played with RL Grime.
Yeah.
And what music did you play? Well, like what was the difference between those two gigs?
They couldn't be more different. So with RL, I played like, mostly electronic stuff and, some rap things and some edits I made. And then for Tiffany's, it was just a bunch of like hip hop and R&B and like cool edits and future beat stuff, world things, Afrobeat,
Yeah.
all that shit.
But when you approach like a corporate gig, obviously you have to take into account that you're playing for people that may not be familiar with who you are, or is that not the case at all?
Um, well, I know the people who are booking me are familiar with who I am and like what my vibe is. Um, and I feel like I'm kind of known as having this, I guess, like bit of duality where I can do electronic and like more left of center stuff, and then I have such heavy roots in like hip hop and urban music that they don't think I'm gonna come up there and play an EDM like fucking whatever. Why am I forgetting the name? EDC.
ADC, right?
An EDC set. Wow. But yeah, so for those things, like I sort of take into account like what kind of event it's going to be, if it's going to be a little bit more mellow, or if it's going to be like some turned up like party. You never know, but kind of think about that ahead of time.
And then you've played Coachella.
hmm
That was last year, or was it
2018.
2018? Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess last year.
What was that like?
I was so stressed out. I was terrified. I've never played any festival of that caliber, and growing up in Southern California, like Coachella is a big deal.
Around the world, yeah, right?
Yeah, but like especially, like I grew up in LA, so people would be driving out there every year. It was like such a time in the city. Um, but yeah, it was terrifying. And I was playing the same day as Beyonce, which like I really hyped myself up with that one,
Oh wow, I didn't realize.
which was cool. But I was in my head, I was like, oh my God, this is like really important that I'm doing this like for myself. I'm like, oh my God. But yeah, I was really stressed out. And then after I played my set the first week, I fully just like my adrenaline had burnt out finally and my nerves were gone. So I just crashed, like fell asleep in my trailer. I was dead. But it was really cool and scary and probably the biggest stage I've ever been on for sure.
How did you approach your set for that? Like, because I mean, playing a corporate gig's one thing, or playing a club, but like on a magnitude of that importance, like what did you do to craft your set?
Well, I took into account like it wasn't an EDM festival, And it's not like that's my whole vibe forever. So I wanted to really make sure what I played kind of represented everything that I like and everything that I stand for and, love and identify with musically. So there was a bunch of different elements in there. There was definitely some like hip hop songs. There were definitely some electronic stuff, but it wasn't like bangers. And I ended my set with like a song from The Rapture. Like I kind of bounced around a bit and was like, you know what? This is something that I feel like if somebody listened to it, they would be like, okay, I get her, you know?
Yeah, like spoke to your kind of strengths and your identity.
Yeah, and I wasn't playing like some primetime peak hour set either. It was a bit earlier, so I had a bit more freedom to just sort of have a vibe versus needing to keep everyone's energy on 100,000 the whole time. So,
What is that your ideal gig? Is like Coachella your ideal gig, or what's your ideal gig?
honestly, I don't have an ideal gig. Like, it really depends so much on the crowd there. Like, EDC was so fun for me because it was like the biggest crowd I think I've ever played for, and their energy was so up that it was just so fun to like have that exchange going on. But then having like clubs that are just, packed out and people are just super, you know, hyped and ready to go. Or like even house parties or like the do-over and stuff like that where it's just people are like really vibing on whatever you're playing and you get to really jump into like that aspect of your taste and your sound and have that exchange with people. Like that makes it the best. So it's not really like music specific for me.
And I mean, you actually spoke. We've spoken before, but you spoke about Low End Theory being a really important like institution for
Yeah.
you, and that environment. Do you want to talk about that a bit, like how that really influenced you in a way?
Yeah. I mean, going to Low End was so life changing for me, and as with many artists and DJs I know. But it was the first place that I went where I experienced people breaking all the rules when it came to DJing and music and like kind of controlling the vibe of a party. And it was like, the style of mixing and the songs that were being mixed together and the beats that were being played. It was just like things that you would never think go together. And you didn't even have to know anything that was being played. It's not like you're going to a club and like you hear DJ AM like playing all these things all crazy and it's like, oh my God, I love this song. Oh my God, I love that song too. Oh my God, this song too. It's like you didn't have to know shit. But it was all being mixed so interestingly and like being presented in such a fresh way that it felt like seeing abstract art for the first time. And you're just like, fuck, whoa, this is a thing. And I think that really impacted me because I didn't feel like I had to just be one way.
Mm.
And I think that's something with just my identity as a human. Like, I've never been able to fit into a box. Or like, I never had like one group of friends in school. I never had one thing that was like my thing. I had so many little things that I just loved in different ways. And it was so cool to see that I could find, all these different types of music and vibes, and they would make sense together somehow just because I liked them, just because my taste makes sense in that way, and that people could come enjoy that, and that could be a thing to share with people. So yeah, and it was just really fun.
Did you ever get to play it?
Yeah, I played twice.
Awesome.
That was the scariest gig of my life.
Yeah.
Probably more than Coachella. I'm not kidding. Like the first time I played Low End, I was so nervous, and I remember because Gas Lamp Killer was one of the people who taught me how to DJ. Like I had a few friends who just would help me out, and he wasn't there that week.
Oh.
He was like out of town for a show or something, and I'm like, fuck, my like, my little like safety support system in here isn't here, and I was just so nervous, but it was cool.
Yeah, I mean that night for anyone who's been in LA, like I felt like coming here was I had to go. It was like a
Yeah.
rite of
It's like
passage.
church.
Yeah, and it seems to have launched so many people's careers or given them a
Sure.
platform to kind of go on to bigger and better things. Right?
Yeah, and I mean there were so many legendary nights there with like, Erica Badu and Tom York and Tyler the Creator and all the Odd Future kids. Like there's so many things that happen that are just so sick. But yeah, R.I.P. R.I.P.
Yeah.
Low End Theory.
Yeah, no doubt. If you went, you went, and if you didn't, you'll
You
never
missed
know.
out, yeah.
So about the all the genres and the identity, like that's a bit of a. I feel like that's quite an important journey for a DJ, and like I'm interested to know how that journey was for you, like to even where you are now. Even before we started this interview, we started talking about the genres that you're known for, and how that's going for you. Like, can you talk about your journey from kind of like figuring out who you wanted to be as a DJ?
Yeah. When I first started, I had a fully different name. I used to go by Soul Ray, which was short for Soul Renaissance.
Dope.
But I would play like neo soul and like Dilla beats and like random low end theory type stuff and old like 90s hip hop, and like that was more my vibe. And then I started, getting more gigs where you kind of needed to, cater to the crowd a bit. And so I started incorporating more like mainstream stuff and finding ways to do that, that I still felt like I was being me, but also like being a version of me that was digestible to more people.
That's so important.
Yeah. And so then I started playing more like, I don't know, more commercial stuff mixed in with stuff I really liked. And then I started exploring more like club music and electronic stuff. And that was like, I started DJing in like 2010, I think it was.
That's kind of like peak EDM time.
Yeah. So I started in like 2010-ish, like late 2010, and was playing all my like vibey, soulful, weird stuff. And then I started like, playing more clubby hip hop with that. And then I started working at this nightclub that I was doing marketing at, and they would let me open as a DJ there. And it was like LA bottle service, sparklers and all type spot. So
I've been to those places.
yeah, so I had to kind of like adjust and be able to play to like completely different crowds. But it was like DJ boot camp for real, because like having to switch it up so quickly, like quick mixes, switching the vibe. Is this working? No. How am I going to get from here to here? And like trying to make everybody happy. And then, oh, somebody who's spending $80,000 on bottles wants to hear this one song that's like maybe 120 BPM and you're at 100 and you're like, oh my God, none of this makes sense. What do I do?
Got to make it work.
Yeah. And at the time, the club owner hated hip hop and rap. Like I would get in trouble for playing it.
That really grinds my gears.
Yeah. So I had to, get more into like playing house and exploring electronic stuff of that nature that I still identified with. Because like that was peak EDM time. That was like Calvin Harris, Avicii, Fist Pump Life, Swedish House Mafia. And I just don't like that stuff at all. Never have, never will. And I was like, I can't play this stuff, but I need stuff that people who like this stuff maybe will be into. And so I started exploring a bit more and, messing around with that stuff. And then from there, the whole like trap thing happened. And I really got into that, like RL and Foster Amos and all that stuff. I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. This is like hip hop, but then it works for electronic people. This is fucking a blessing. Thank you.
No doubt.
Yeah. So I really like jumped into that, and then there was all these little offshoots of other subgenres that kind of worked with that, and like Jersey Club and all the like East Coast club shit, and so I really was like heavy into that moment of time. And then also like alongside that, I was still like really heavy in hip hop, obviously. And then as the years went on, I feel like I started kind of following along with like some more obscure club stuff, like I don't even know how to describe it, just like a little bit harder or a little bit weirder. And then I took a detour into I guess like a bit harder stuff, like more bangers and stuff, because I was playing electronic festivals and
there's an audience for that, right?
Yeah,
They want to hear the big drops.
yeah. And at my core, I'm like with DJing, I'm not one of those like I am a producer and I started DJing and you're only going to listen to my sound. I function so much off of like the energy exchange. So if I'm in a space where people want to hear like big drops and big sounds and hard shit, I'm going to find my version of that to share with them. So I did that for a while, and again, still doing hip hop all through it. And now I'm sort of in a place where I'm like, okay, I don't know if it really works for me anymore. I don't know if I identify with it as much. And I like produced a little, like I've made some club tracks and I've made some like trap stuff, and it's all good. Like I still like it,
Yeah,
but
I really like that track you did with Flip De Niro.
yeah, I love that one.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like, okay, what, I'm pausing because I look around me and in that space, I feel like I don't identify as much with what's going on sonically. And that is from like most of the artists and the listeners. I'm just kind of like, I don't feel like we get each other,
Mm,
And I feel like what I want to say musically isn't something I can say with like big drops
sure.
and builds. So now I'm sort of like these last few months I've kind of like paused and I'm like, okay, what do I want to do? What direction do I want to go in now? And how do I plan on getting there? And it is a bit of a rebuild because I feel like I've kind of made a name more in that electronic space. And I really paused that to be like, okay, what do I want to do? And is I trust that I can sort of rebuild and rebrand and create stuff that I love, that I feel like I identify with, which will be a bit of a challenge, but
Part of the journey.
yeah, I've done it. I've done it enough times, and I'm gonna keep having to do it. And 5 years down the line, I'll probably have to do it again. Um, but that's fine.
Honestly, that's really reassuring. And I think that more people don't admit that even.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually really refreshing to hear someone say that.
Mm-hmm.
I can identify with that. I'm sure, like, whoever's listened to this has probably had a moment in time where they've questioned, like, oh, is this something that speaks to me? Is this the gig?
This is right for me.
Yeah. And I think that it's really healthy to pivot, like you said,
Yeah.
pivot and kind of reanalyze what it is that I want out of music, and is this what's happening? And I think now is an interesting time too, because yeah, I mean, to your point, EDM has changed and trap music has been here since, I mean, well, trap music's been here for a long time, but
Yeah.
like club and the popularity of trap has been 2012 to now. And that's like, 7 years now.
Yeah.
It's a long time, and we're going into
And
2020.
it's changed so much.
That's right.
Like I don't vibe with that as much anymore. Like
Exactly right, yeah.
yeah.
And you've got house music that's changing, and you've got all these new sounds coming again.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, who knows? It could be grunge music could be back in like, 6
Yeah.
months or something,
Things are gonna keep moving around, and I think even outside of music, like in any field you're in or any aspect of life, it's really important to pause and be like, am I being true to my like authentic self right now? And if not, let me just readjust a little, because we're not going to know what we want to do for the rest of our lives. You kind of have to check in and be like, I don't know if this is working for me anymore, and find something that works better.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's really important to talk about, actually,
Yeah.
especially amongst DJs. I think a lot of us get set in our ways and we just rinse and repeat, and then we kind of maybe get tired and bored, and we're like, well, we're in this lane, we just got to stay and ride it out. But
That ends up fucking so many people too, because it's like you stay in a lane, but it's like maybe you made your name in dubstep, and then that trend or that moment and all the listeners that came at that time and all the everything has sort of faded or adjusted. And if you're still going hard at that, you're not evolving, you're gonna die with the trend.
Yep.
And I think like someone who's so good at evolving constantly is A-Track. He's been doing this so long, and he keeps switching it up, and like he's not like stuck in any genre. He just kind of does what is authentic to him and keeps keeping it fresh, and that works.
yeah, I think that's actually one of the things that I've looked at him and gone, yeah, how does he do it?
Yeah.
And I don't even know if he knows. I think it's just he's always followed his heart, or
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's really a good point.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of that, and kind of like being a mentor, you've been putting on power workshops. That's your. Do you want to just quickly explain what that is?
Yeah. So it's a series of workshops. They're nonprofit, and I basically open it up to women only, and I just teach girls how to DJ, and then all the money that we raise from ticket sales we'll donate to a local women's or LGBT center. And we've been doing DJ ones for a couple years, but now we're going to also be expanding into production, which is really cool. Like, it's been such a passion project for me, and I feel like it's something I wish I had when I was starting. And I wish I had access to that, and I would have probably gotten started much sooner if there was something like that around. And yeah, I think when it comes to like again, women in like any field, there's such a competitive thing that's like thrown onto us of like, oh, well, this girl has it. Like, are you going to take it from her? Like, oh, we already have a girl. And it's like, why can't there be a bunch of us? You know?
Right. More limited opportunities for women.
Yeah, it's more limited and it's kind of tokenized. And like, there's so much bullshit we get, which I'm sure everyone's tired of hearing about, like, you know, women facing struggles in a male dominated thing. Like, we all know that. But I think it's really important to kind of cultivate a feeling of community amongst any oppressed group, you know, or any minority in any space. And so having a space where everyone feels safe to mess up and can make friends and can learn something new without feeling judged. And, you know, like actually one of the girls who took my class like 2 years ago, she posted something and it was like, I can pull it up, I forget, but it was so like, it made me cry a little bit because she was like, this was such a like life-changing experience for me. And like, just, I'm being nostalgic today and thank you for giving me this space. And, you know, was telling me that like a bunch of the girls that she met in the class, like they all go to each other's gigs, like their first gigs, and share music and support. And like, that's what it's about to me. And like, that's just people elevating each other and empowering each other and having each other's backs. And when that doesn't exist in a community, you know, it's really important to build it.
Totally. Like, I think it's kind of socially acceptable for a long time for men to have like boys clubs and
Yeah.
men's clubs, and I guess it's just as important for women to have their own clubs and
Totally.
their own network, right?
Yeah, and DJing itself, and I feel like a lot of like sectors of music are giant boys clubs.
Yep.
So it's really important to like make sure that there is a solid space to explore and be empowered and supported for women.
And let's be honest, when it's not a boys club, when it's a bit more diverse, it makes the vibe is so much nicer anyways, right?
Yeah, it's like we all need a little balance, you know?
Yeah, balance. So the decision kind of behind the power workshops is to kind of create a space and create something that you wanted as a young DJ.
Yeah, for sure. Because I'm like, you know, there's still a lot I want to do, and hopefully I climb higher and succeed more, but I know I have like some type of platform, and the only reason I've ever wanted any kind of platform is so that I can help people. And so I'm not going to waste the voice that I have. You know, if I can impact anyone, I'm going to do whatever I can.
Well, let's talk about mentorship. Are there some other good examples of people that have done that for you, you know, that it kind of impacted you to do the workshops in the first place?
I've had like a bunch of, I mean, they were all guys.
Okay. Well, that's good.
But
That's
it's
positive.
still nice, yeah. Which I think is also important because that's a whole other discussion. But, you know, I've had a lot of dudes in my life who were willing to take time to like help teach me. And when I was having a meltdown because I couldn't fucking figure it out or couldn't figure something out or I was having trouble with whatever, I had somebody to call, I had someone to come practice with me. Like one of my first friends who ever taught me how to DJ, because I used to be a makeup artist.
Okay.
And he also was at the same company. But he was like the only straight guy makeup artist, which is so funny. But he's an old school like scratch dude. And I would come over his house after work and he'd be like chilling, doing whatever, but listening to me mix. And I'd be like, nope, wrong. Like you would call me out when it wasn't right and help me adjust. And
it's good to have people that are really honest, brutally honest.
Yeah, it really is. And have someone to reach out to when I'm like, I don't know what to do. And, you know, other people that maybe like on the business side of things, like if you have a manager or like somebody who wants you to sign something and you've never dealt with that and before, having someone to reach out to and be like, hey, does this look right to you? Like I had that where someone wanted me to sign a contract. And I was like, I don't know. And I sent it to a few of my friends and they're like, absolutely not. Do not sign that. No fucking way.
That's important.
Yeah. And I'm so thankful for everyone I had, but I'm like, how much cooler would it be if I could have someone that I identified with, that I could also talk about like rolling up to the club and a bouncer thinking I'm a groupie trying to get in, not the person who's playing. Like,
sadly.
Yeah, like those are things that I feel like are it's nice to have someone to talk to and who can give you a heads up on how to navigate those situations that are going to happen. But yeah, I couldn't imagine not having someone to reach out to,
Mm.
like at least someone.
And so you've mentioned you're going into production stuff
Hmm.
as well. Is as a DJ, how does the DJ influence production in your experience? I mean, you said you started as a DJ first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I've been DJing for like I think it's gonna be 10 years. Oh my God. Um,
Congrats! It's the
Thanks.
anniversary.
But yeah, I DJ'd for a really long time, but so many of my friends, like when I was starting to kind of come up in that like a little electronic sphere in like 2012, 13, all of my friends that I like started kind of vibing with and we were all in the scene together, they all started out as producers.
Mm.
And like I would play their music and that's how we kind of like all got connected. And they produced, so they started DJing from there. And here I am, I've been DJing and I have no experience producing, but everyone around me is a very like seasoned producer. So I'm comparing all my shit to people who've been doing this forever.
So hard.
Yeah, and beating myself up because I also have high standards because I know what kind of music I think is good and what
Yeah.
is not. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't make something that I think is good. Like, I'm screwed. So I had many attempts over the years where I would like mess around with production and like be teaching myself and then just be like, I suck. And I would give up for a while. And then I got a bit more comfortable and I got out of my own way and I still get in my own way, but I feel like I'm finally in a place where I can like make what's in my head
Mm.
and I can have ideas and I can have ideas and like play them for people and they're like, oh my God, this is hard as fuck. Like that's so cool to me that I've gotten to that space and there's so much more I want to learn, but it's definitely an interesting journey going from DJ to producer versus producer to DJ
Yeah.
because you're a total music snob as a DJ.
Yep.
So it's already hard learning a new skill. Learning to produce and create music in any way is hard. So you're being like double hard on yourself, which isn't helpful when you're trying to relax and be creative.
Especially when you hear the songs that do really well in the club, right?
Yeah, and you're like, mine doesn't sound like that. Fuck.
Actually, it's funny. J. Espinoza, like I had a conversation with him the other day. Do you know who he is?
Mm-mm.
He's a Bay Area DJ, and he's a world champion, like three style champion.
Uh-huh.
And he's like talking to me about. I hope he doesn't mind me talking about it, but he's like, "Yo, I'm really getting into production, but like, man, like, I'm making stuff, but it just doesn't sound as good as like the records I play, and I just don't want to play anything that's less than what I play." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, but that takes a while, dude. Like,
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
There's a learning curve.
yeah, and it's like, it's also I feel like there's a lot of options available to you, and if you play like a wider range of genres or songs or
Mhm.
styles, and then you have to decide, just kind of like how you're DJing, you have to
Yeah.
decide on what it is that you're gonna make, and even more so than a DJ, right? Because
Yeah.
as a DJ you have some flexibility there, but as a producer you really kind of have to find a lane and stick with it.
Yeah, you have to figure out what is your sound.
Mm.
What do you want to be known for? What elements of your personality are you going to put out into a body of work? And that's hard as hell. And I'm so indecisive. Like I'm a Libra and I'm the most indecisive person ever. Ask me what I want to eat, I have no clue ever. So when you're all over the place musically and have to figure it out, it's like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Which I think also that's another thing that, like, I just kind of picked something and made some stuff, and now I'm like, you know what? Tried it. Need a shift, and that's okay. And you can
Yeah.
shift, and people will shift with you, or you'll find new people that'll identify with what you're making more, and make new fans and new followers and new supporters along the way.
Yeah, and is there any artists in particular right now that you're really inspired by?
I mean, I've just been listening to the Summer Walker album nonstop, so
Oh, that's the man. That's such a good album.
it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good, and like London is an incredible producer.
Yeah.
And I think I mean, even that's a really good example. Like, he came from, making a certain type of music, and it's still in there,
Mm.
but there's all these, like, beautiful acoustic moments and really, like, open, like, emotional tracks on there that aren't like rap beats, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's incredible that like that's a great example of sort of adjusting and trying something new and seeing it work. And I think lyrically, like she's so vulnerable and open, and I think that's something that is important no matter what you're making, whether if you're just making beats or making like crazy future bass tracks or I don't know, whatever. I think being super duper authentic and vulnerable when you're creating is like the most important because people feel it.
People respond to honesty, right?
Totally.
Yeah. And they can kind of tell when you're faking it or
Yeah.
you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yep.
Yeah.
Doesn't stick.
Yeah. I almost feel like that do you ever get on the microphone when you DJ?
Yeah, and I hate it.
Me too. And it's like, I feel like when I'm on the microphone, people can tell instantly if I'm insecure about anything at all.
Yeah.
So you got to go in
1000%.
there and like just really convince people that you mean business.
Yeah. I mean, I used to like feel like I had to get on the mic and like say the things that all the other DJs would say and do it this way and that way. And I was like, that's just not me.
Yeah.
So when I get on, normally I'm just like my weird self, and I'm maybe saying like a weird dry dad joke that no one's gonna get, but I'm still gonna say it because that's it, you know? Like people can just tell, people can smell inauthenticity.
Oh yeah, for real. Speaking of which, you're very open about your identity and the kind of groups that you are part of.
Mm-hmm.
How important is it for you to make yourself visible to other young people or musicians?
I was actually having a conversation with my dad about this, but I think it's super important to be like really open when you have identity aspects that are traditionally more like frowned upon or not supported or like, discriminated against, because there's so many other people that have those. And when you grow up and you don't have role models that you can identify with, you feel like you can't do things, And when like the whole world is telling you that like you're terrible and you should die and like, whatever awful things.
They are really awful things.
Yeah. And that goes from like, race to sexuality to gender and like everything in between. When all you're seeing are people who are not like you succeeding and you're getting all this like negativity, it makes you not want to try, Like I feel like I would have started DJing a lot sooner if I saw more women, for example. So I'm like, all right, I've got a few things on my list here of like the oppression bingo list.
Yep.
So I'm like, I'm just gonna make sure that like even if it's one person that sees me and they're like, oh my God, she's this, she's that, like I can do that too. Like, oh my God, like for someone to just feel like they can identify with somebody that's doing something that they want to do, it just gives a little boost of empowerment. And that's what we really need to change things in the world, for people to feel safe trying something and like there's space for them.
Welcome in a way.
Yeah, just making space for people. And it's tricky though, because at the same time you don't want to be like pigeonholed. You don't want to be the this or that DJ, like, but at the same time it's part of it. Like so many girls are like, I don't want to be a female DJ. I don't want people to be like, oh, that female DJ. Which I get, because like you want to be known for your work as a DJ or your work as whatever.
Totally.
But at the same time, to make sure people know like, hey, I defied a shit ton of odds here and got where I'm at. And I'm doing something that I'm traditionally not, welcome in or supported in or impactful in. That gets around and it makes such a difference for people. So I think it's just important to make sure that there's a balance there and not have it turn into some like corny gimmick thing that pigeonholes you and holds you back from exploring the rest of your options in life. But yeah, I think it's super important.
Yeah, I find it kind of sometimes the topic of homosexuality in the club and music is quite. It's so washed away. Like the fact that a lot of the music that we know and love comes from gay clubs.
Yeah.
And a place where people felt safe and they could escape.
Gay black clubs.
Specifically, yeah.
Like,
The music I
that's
love
all
and
like straight white dudes. Like, what the hell happened?
yeah, yeah, and I find that a bit, yeah, it's just very confusing how even to this day I feel like certain audiences don't understand that
Yeah.
the music that they love came from people that they may really not like or agree with,
Yeah.
but that is actually the opportunity right there is to like put that hate or that
Yeah.
fear aside and
Look at
embrace
this thing
it.
you love and that you share that comes from this community.
And if they didn't exist,
You wouldn't have this.
you wouldn't have it.
There's just such a lack of like education and presence in that community that it's easy for people to not know and to ignore it, and like maybe they heard it once or twice or like saw an article on whatever about it, but when that representation's not there and when it's just kind of been shoved to like far ends of the club world, it really halts compassion and understanding and acceptance and love and all of that.
Totally, and that's the best thing about music. And I've talked about this before, but it's like that's the thing that brings a lot of people together, regardless of their backgrounds. It's like music can have the power
Yeah.
to do that. Which leads me to my next question: what does the power of music mean to you?
Oh man. I don't even know how to answer that because it is such a powerful thing, Every it, everything you'd ever want to communicate or be understood about you or connect to, you can find in music, Like you're going through any sort of emotion, you can find music that makes you feel understood and makes you feel less alone and makes you feel less scared or makes you feel happy and pulls you out of a bad mood or, makes you fall in love. Like it really dictates so much in our lives. And like whenever I meet people who are like, oh, I don't really listen to music, I'm like, what is wrong with you? Are you a serial killer? Like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that music has such a huge power over our lives and our emotions and our moods and our lives.
Yeah, I can't even imagine a world without it. Like I think about my life, and I would just be like,
No,
that's
absolutely
not.
not.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't have got to where I am, obviously, without it, but I wouldn't be able to continue on without it.
No.
It's like fuel.
Yeah, no way. Like, I really couldn't imagine. Like, so many special moments in my life where even just the act of sharing music and I really do miss, like, making CDs and mixtapes for people. Like, me and my friends used to make them for each other, and that was just, I miss that.
Like handmade covers and all
Mhm.
that. Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
Can you recall, like, what was your earliest memory of music?
I was a huge Michael Jackson fan growing up. Like, hardcore. Like, that was the first, piece of music I bought. And,
An album?
yeah. Well, I think it was tape.
Tape. Yeah,
Yeah,
sweet.
I had tapes.
Yeah, tape. Do you remember which tape it was?
I bought a bunch at once. So I had, like, Bad and Thriller. And then I think I also had a Madonna one, but I didn't listen to it that much. But yeah, Bad and Thriller, and that was just, like, my shit. And anytime I went through something, when I was really young and like my parents divorced and I didn't have that many friends growing up and I got bullied and like I had all, that annoying childhood crap. But that made me feel less alone. And it made me feel like whenever things were hard, I would listen to that and I felt better. And I didn't understand why, but that's what I would do. And I still do that when I'm not feeling great. Like, I'm going to put something on and that I know is going to make me feel better. And pretty important.
Yeah, I think about the times actually when I'm the least happy.
Yeah.
And there are always times where I'm not listening to enough music. Like, it's almost like I have to make sure that I make a playlist every little once in a while just so I'm like, kind of consuming it in a way to keep it going. And it really changes everything.
It's almost like, because I meditate a lot.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, and I need it, and I know sometimes when I'm not feeling great, I'll just be like, ugh, like, I'm feeling kind of down, and, like, my energy's low, and I just feel cranky, and I'm like, why do I feel like shit? And then I'm like, oh, I haven't meditated for, like, a week. Like, it's a maintenance thing. You know, you have to constantly do it. And I feel like music is so similar in that way that if you're not feeding your soul, like it's going to get hungry and cranky and you're going to feel like shit.
It's a
So,
great way of articulating it, actually.
yeah.
Yeah, totally cranky.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, your one of your early experiences with music, I've heard in another interview, was with through your mother.
Yeah.
And do you want to talk about like her influence?
Oh yeah, my mom was a huge influence. She had like a whole collection of records and she always had music playing in the house. And my like biggest memories with her was Erykah Badu, Baduism, and Maxwell Urban Hang Suite. That like I still listen to those all the time. That's my, I love
Classics.
that. Yeah, so good. But that was always like stuff like that and like Miles Davis and like always just cranked up in the house, like super loud. And in the car on the way to school, and she loves live music too. So sometimes, because my parents weren't together when I was young, my mom would want to go to a jazz festival or like a hip hop festival.
She listens to hip hop too. Oh, I mean, I guess Badu.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, little balance of the two. She loved the Above the Rim soundtrack.
Oh yeah, classic.
Yeah, but yeah, she'd want to go and like couldn't afford to get a ticket or whatever, and then had me and my brother that she needed to watch over. So she would sign up to volunteer at these festivals to work, and we would be there with her. And I remember I saw Erykah Badu. I think it was like 1997 or 98. I forget. But yeah, she was always bringing us around that, and still to this day, she's always like, "Oh, this person's playing. You want to come?" Like, "Oh, I'm gonna be at the." She goes to like the Blue Whale in LA, the little like
Oh,
jazz
yeah.
club. Like, yeah, she's on it.
I've heard the Blue Whale is amazing, and is
Yeah.
that where Mark de Clive-Lowe has a residency or
I
something?
don't know.
It's like old jazz musicians. So
Yeah. It's really cool. I've been there a few times, but yeah, that and then like some of her friends were all in music. Like one of her best friends was Babyface and Stevie Wonder's backup singer for a long time. So we would go like watch them, and just it was really impactful, like to have that. And I've definitely stolen a bunch of records from her, and she doesn't know that. But that, and then she also like because I grew up dancing, and she really encouraged that. She really encouraged just creative outlets. Like she got me a keyboard and had me take piano lessons, and I put me in dance class probably before I could walk. And in that, honestly, like dance class got me so connected to music in a different way that after I stopped dancing, I had such a need to experience music in a way other than just listening that's why I really got into DJing.
Oh wow.
Because I danced from like literally probably when I was, I don't know, 4 until I was like 19, 20. And, competitive, like traveling teams and all that stuff.
Winning competitions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We were like national champs a bunch of times.
Wow.
But dance class was so great because it was such a time to learn about music, because I took class a bunch of times per week, and every teacher, like the first half of the class, we'd be doing warm-ups and, different things. And they'd be playing all the music they loved. And so, we'd be listening to like Prince and Michael Jackson, and then we'd be listening to like some neo soul stuff, and then we'd be listening to like Tori Amos and Alanis Morissette, like all kinds of things. And yeah, I just learned so much about music, and I connected to it in such a deep emotional way by moving with it and like pulling the emotion from the song and translating that into movement, that once I stopped dancing, I was in college, and I wasn't trying to be a professional dancer, and there weren't really many like classes for adults that weren't people who were trying to be pro at the time. So I stopped, and then I felt such a void, because I was like, I can't just listen to music. Like I needed more. I needed another way to connect with it and to, work with it and communicate with it. And yeah, then I found out about DJing in that way, and I was like, oh my God, perfect.
Yeah,
Here we
I feel
go.
like dancing really elevates the musical experience.
For sure.
My partner is super, just loves dancing, and I mean I have learned more about dancing through her, and yeah, it really, dancing with music, you got to do it,
Yeah.
the way to experience it. like as if you're not playing it or making it, that's the way to do it, right? That's the
Yeah.
in.
Because even like I have some memories where like maybe I was going through a hard time and you want to like listen to something, maybe you're feeling sad and you want to listen to something sad. But I would do that and I'd also just like dance to it.
Hmm.
But like, like contemporary dance type shit. But it would be so cathartic because I would like sometimes I would just cry and it would like get my emotions out of me and really help me kind of like release the same way people get a release when they write or when
Yep.
they do anything like that. And it's something that I really stress a lot when I'm teaching other people to DJ, especially in my workshops, is that you have to trust your body to
Mm.
know what's going on with the music. Like people sit there and they get Serato face and they're staring at their screen and I'm like, no. And I'll put their screen down and I make them move with me. I'll like listen and I really like make everybody move with me.
Feel the
Because
beat.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like you can't just sit here statically and listen to it. Like you need to feel it and trust your body to know when is the right time to mix it or you know because music is a conversation and all the phrases in it, you need to know when it's time to breathe and when it's time for the next sentence to start or whatever.
100%.
So yeah.
I just want to back up a bit. You talked a bit about Erykah Badu and Baduism.
Mm.
Now, I kind of know this about you already, but is Badu your favorite artist?
I
One of
guess
them?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm indecisive so I can't like pick a top
Right.
one,
Yeah.
but I love Eric Badu.
And you have an interesting story about, you've told me this before, and I don't know if it made the cut, but I thought it was a really fantastic story, and I'd really love to hear it again about you had an opportunity to meet her. Is that right?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's one of my favorite stories that I've ever had in life. I'm very thankful for that one. But so I was friends with Flying Lotus because I was just like always at Low End Theory and around.
That's just so cool, just as it is. It's so rad.
Yeah, he's incredible. Oh, his new live show, Sidebar, is insane. You have to wear 3D glasses for it.
Oh, wow.
It's nuts.
Because he's always had crazy live shows.
Yeah, but now it's literally 3D.
Oh, wow,
While you're
okay.
watching him, it's crazy.
Mental note, check
Yeah.
out this show.
Yeah, but I was friends with him, and I was driving home from somewhere in LA at the time, and I hit him up because I was like going to be, passing by his area, and I was like, oh, what are you up to? And he's like, oh, I'm just chilling, come over, hang out, and I was like, okay. He's like, oh, by the way, Erica's here, and I was like, excuse me. And I was like, okay, sure, cool, casual, yep. And so I like, called my mom immediately. And I was like, Mom, going over Steve's house right now, and Erica Badu's there. I need to be cool. I need to be cool. So I get there and I walk in, and like his old house at the time, like the living room was just a giant gaming room. Like it was just a big projector with a giant couch, and like you play video games.
Wow.
Just video games all over the wall.
Sounds like dude paradise.
Yeah. And so I walk in, and she's just sitting on the couch. And she's like, oh, hi, I'm Erica. And I'm like, uh-huh. I know. And I was like, oh, hey, I'm Lauren. And she's like, oh, do you want to play? And I was like, okay. And so I sat down and started playing Mortal Kombat with Erica Badu,
That's crazy.
which, like, I've never played that, but she kept, like, pausing to show me, like, things to do to, like, rip her head off. And I'm like, oh, my God, what's going on?
It's a very graphic game.
Yeah. And then like Thundercat and Just Blaze walk in, and I'm just like, what's going on? And then Flying Lotus had his studio in the house, and he was like, oh, everybody like come in here. He was, because I guess they were recording. I think it was Cosmogramma. I forget. But anyways, everyone went in there, and they were just like chilling and smoking and talking about like conspiracy theories, and I'm just like, what? Like, how am I here right now? This is so crazy. And yeah, it was surreal. And then I was getting ready to leave, and she gave me a hug, and it was like I felt like I was literally hugging an angel. And
She's a magical character.
she really is. She's not human.
Yeah.
Like she's really very like ethereal. Like if Mother Earth was a person, that's her.
Yeah. I love her music. It's just she's one of the most consistent artists too. Like she's again a great example of somebody who's evolved, like obviously Baduism and Worldwide Underground, Mama's Gun, and even her most recent record, but you can't use
Yeah.
my phone. I remember like I heard that and I was just like, whoa, this is so like current.
Yeah.
And she's got like, you know, kind of some trap stuff going on, so,
Yeah.
but she's still keeping Houston, like Texas with the chopped and screwed stuff, and she's got Andre on there. And
Yeah.
it's just amazing. Like
So dope. And her, honestly, like, I've seen her probably 20 times, and she's playing, I think, Friday. She's playing Friday with Most Def at the Greek Theater,
in LA.
which I know. Like,
What?
I didn't even realize it until yesterday. One of my friends who happens to be friends with her, we were talking about her. And he was like, "Oh my God, are you going to go?" And I was like, "What? I didn't even know this was happening. What the fuck?" But, you know, I'm like, I've seen her so many times. I need to chill out. But
She puts on a show.
best. So good live. So good live.
That live album that had Tyrone and stuff on it. That was actually one of my first introductions to Erykah Badu. And as I was going to a, not to make this about me, but I was going to a jazz school, and I just remember thinking like, man, she just nailed it all. She's got like, you know, the jazz stuff going on. You got hip hop. You got R&B. It's just this perfect combination
Yeah.
of all these elements. And it's just so, again, it's so current at the time. It just felt so like perfect for the moment. You know?
Yeah, totally.
And that's hard to do, and she's been able to maintain that for a long time.
Yeah, and she's just got her own lane. Like, there's nobody that can sound like her.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
just-
So did you, like, when you got to meet her, were you just totally starstruck, or were you able to kind of get over that and just, you know, vibe?
Yeah, I mean, I've met some I guess big people in my life, and I'm very glad and proud that I can act normal. Because I know a lot of people freak out and get starstruck, and I'm like, absolutely not. I don't want to be known as that weird fangirl. So I'm going to be chill and act like they're just a normal person, and I don't know who they are.
Nice. Yeah, you've you DJ'd for Kid Cudi, is that right? For a while. Is that a similar kind of vibe?
Yeah. Yeah, I went on tour with him. I was on tour with him for like a year. We didn't have like that many shows. He wasn't on like tour, but yeah. But yeah, I DJ'd for him, and same thing. I was just like, you know, just chill, normal dude. Like, we'll talk about hamburgers or I don't know, normal life stuff, like whatever.
You were a fan of his music before?
Yeah. I wasn't like not like was of Erica, but you know, it's Kid Cudi. Yeah.
Totally, yeah. And then so what are you working on like right now? What's your current focus?
So I have all the power workshops. So we're going to be expanding the DJ workshops. We're getting the production workshops up off the ground, and just trying to find other ways to really make it impactful, you know, because right now we're just kind of donating money, and I feel like there's something bigger that I could do that would just make more of an impact and help people in a more direct way than just throwing money. So trying to kind of figure that out and figure out how we're going to, you know, take it on the road and make everything make sense. And then I'm so ready to really just work on music now, because I took a bit of a break. I was just like, I don't know what I really want to make right now. And it's a little discouraging when you don't know what you want to make,
Oh yeah.
you know? And you feel a little bit lost. So now I finally feel like, okay, like I feel like the weight is lifted, and like I can sit down and just kind of fuck around. Do I know what I'm going to make? No. But I feel like I'm ready to find it. So,
Awesome. I'm looking forward to hearing what that is.
yeah. I definitely want to work with more artists. Like it's going to be more like artist based.
Collaborations?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's a great, I mean, personally, that's the way I like to work, and I
Yeah.
think it really can bring the best out of you, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay, so finally, like parting, just while we wrap this up, if you could speak to a young Lauren, this is like the platform.
Yeah.
What would you want? What would be your message to DJ starting out Lauren?
Get out of your own way, and don't be scared, and just whatever you want to do, just do it. Don't wait. Don't talk yourself out of it. Just literally just go get that shit.
Awesome.
And you're going to suck for a while, and that's okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Lauren, and
Thanks.
yeah, look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.